Okay, starting chapter 1. Here we go. Okay, so with all psych courses, really, and probably soc and anthropology and you name it courses, there's always some intro. There's always some history that you're going to get with abnormal and all sorts of stuff. Right? So, skip. All right. So, what is it? What is developmental science? The study of constancy and change throughout the lifespan. When we say that the field is scientific, it means that we rely on empirical research, careful manipulation and observation of things, recording of things. It's a science. When we say it's applied, it means that we are going to take what we find and use it. We're going to solve problems or treat things or that kind of thing. And it's interdisciplinary. And that means that it will take different perspectives from a social perspective, a cognitive perspective, a biological perspective, that kind of thing, emotional perspective, all these different approaches. So, the definition of a theory is a system of interrelated ideas that explain some set of observations. Okay? So, it's an orderly, integrated set of statements that describes behavior. This is what's happening. That's what's happened. It explains behavior. This is why it's happening. And it predicts behavior. Given this, given what we've known, given what we witnessed, it's likely that this will happen again. Please interrupt me if you have a question. Anything you want to add. So, what I have on my screen right now is Tippins. So, you're in YouTube, buddy. That's it. And Bella, you guys are YouTube stars. You know what my kids watch? Those fluffy things. Those Alex, what's that woman's name? Somebody Elizabeth. What is it? Mariah Elizabeth or something? The squishy lady? She's always taking squishies and repurposing them. I don't know. Anyway, she's a YouTube sensation, apparently. So the basic issues in development is are the changes we see as we grow, as we age. Are they continuous or discontinuous forms of development? And we're going to talk about what that means in a second. Is there only one course of development or are there many? And then we're going to talk about the influences of nature, which is basically what you've inherited, which is basically something about who you are, or is it something about your environment? Nurture that has an influence on how you developed. So there are two ways to look at development. Is it continuous, as in, like, think of like physical growth? Do we see that as a continuous form of development, or do we see it as stages? You grow, there are these growth spurts, and then you kind of slow down a little bit. Then whoop, you shoot up again, and then you slow down a little bit, and you whoop. Now, we're not talking just about physical development, we're talking about cognitive development. So when it comes to thinking and thoughts and problem solving, communicating, do we have these massive spurts of development and then all of a sudden we just kind of like hang out for a while? And then boom, we do it again and we hang out for a while. So there are two ways to look at it. The context of development. So here we have the whole nature nurture thing idea essentially. There are unique for each one of us, unique, distinct combinations of who you are personally and environmental circumstances that results in differences between us in how we develop emotionally, socially, cognitively, even physical development. You got people who have, genes for gigantism, who are just tall people. And, That's something that they are bringing to the table. But if they're raised in an impoverished environment, they don't have the right kind of foods, or it's an emotionally disturbing, or they were in an accident early on, then they're not going to develop to their full potential, their full height, if you will. Here's our nature nurture debate. The nature comes in the form of genetics, right? Hereditary information. And these are received from our parents at conception, right? When the spermatocyte fertilizes the oocyte, the gametes, the smallest cells in our bodies. Yep, haploid. Or is it nurture? Right? So is it dependent on the physical and social forces? Right? So you have someone, you have a child who's raised in a sedentary home. They just sit around a lot. Versus a child who's raised in a very physical, active home. Now you have the two children. Let's say they're identical twins raised apart. One is raised in a sedentary home, the other one's raised in an active home. There might be some weight differences. The influences, nurture will influence our biological and our psychological development, right? Just like I said, psychological, you go through bad life experiences. Maybe you develop an insecure attachment style, right? And that carries throughout life. Stability versus plasticity. We think of something as stable, we think of it as unchanging. Go ahead. My son's sharpening his pencil. Hold on. Dirty dog. Uh, these individual differences that we see, right? You know who you are. You know who your friends are. Some of your friends, you're much more outgoing than some of your friends, and others, maybe you have friends who are more outgoing than you, more extroverted, more emotionally stable, right? They don't scare easily, right? I'm highly neurotic, but I have friends who are more neurotic than I am, believe it or not. And I have friends who drive me nuts because they're not neurotic enough. They're too crazy, right? And these things happen early on. These individual differences, our personality develops early on. It changes slightly. It does change. We become more conscientious and more emotionally stable and all these different things, right? Less neurotic. So these lifelong patterns are established by early experiences that we have. So when we say that something's stable, it means relatively unchanging. And then we have things about us that are plastic. So the idea of plasticity is that our development is open to lifelong change, meaning some believe with a fixed mindset that your intelligence is what it is, and others believe in a growth mindset that is no, it can develop continuously throughout your life. And so these changes occur based on influential experiences, meaning things that, you go through life and based on, look at you guys here now. You're all here learning about human development or lifespan development, whatever you want to call it. And, this is going to essentially, you're going to take something home with you. You're going to learn something, and something from this course will last for the rest of your life. It certainly won't be the majority of the stuff you learn, but some of the stuff you learn in this course, you will never, ever forget for the rest of your life. Be a few things. Hang on now. Come on. All right. So we say that development is lifelong, meaning we're always developing, for the better or for the worse, but we are. It's multidimensional, which means we're talking about all the different aspects of development: the cognitive, the physical, the emotional, the social, I mean, even moral development. And we say it's multi directional, it can go anywhere. um, we know that it's highly plastic, like even when it comes to morality. We become We have certain understandings of morality. In the beginning, it's based on what you were given a cookie for. And then from that, from a child's perspective of morality, right and wrong, based on what's reinforced or what's punished, it turns into what people of authority say. And then that lasts for a while until you hit middle adulthood ish timeline. And then now it's just what you think is right, you know. And all these things are shaped by our personal experiences. So it's influenced by multiple interacting forces. Patrick, you look like you are at a theater. You look like you're standing, waiting in line for the show to start.
Oh, you like my cool light set?
I do like those.
I wanted to do a swirl pattern, but I never got around to it. That's just laziness.
So is it just one line, or is that a reflection onto the ceiling, or are there two?
No, it goes all the way around the room,
That's cool.
but I wanted, like I said, to start in the center and then swirl it out, but
Oh,
that seemed like a lot.
that, that does seem like a lot.
Yeah,
We're out of lights again. Oh wow. Yeah, I like it though. I like the color. I like the color of the bulb against the wall color. I like that. It's a
it's
neat.
not too bad.
It's a
It's
neat
dark. It's darker
combination.
than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, it's a dark wall. You know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in some British person's study or something.
Nice. You fancy. Well, then
Yeah,
you're set
fancy.
right. Yep. And then Bella's got lights too. I don't know what's going on there. What are those Christmas blue lights? What's going on there?
They're supposed to be like dangling lights, but I need. I just moved into my new apartment, so I gotta fill the walls up some more. A lot more wall space in this apartment than my other one.
Mm-hmm. What's the arrow for behind you? Tell you where to go.
It's kind of like a boho theme. If you know what I mean. Like I don't
Oh,
know. I was kind of going for like a boho theme. It's just like decoration.
okay.
Matches like the like antler type things right there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up boho. I don't know what that means.
I tried to do boho theme, but it just didn't even work out that way. It just went completely opposite. My mom ended up taking over. That's why, and she's got like that touch. And when she's in the zone, I do not bother her.
Step back and let it
Yep.
happen. Yep, I
I
hear
was
you.
like, you can do whatever you want. Go
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
That's what I tell my wife too. Okay, continuing on with influences on development, multiple interacting forces that are age graded. It means like marriage. So it means that certain things happen. Okay, you tell me. Actually, let's interact a little bit for crying out loud. I know this is the first day, and I know I'm being impatient, so I don't care. Um, as the semester goes on, those of you that know me, we'll interact more and more. So I'm gonna pick someone, and I'm picking Cassidy. Now, age graded means that when we hit a certain age range, certain things happen for most people. Okay. So an example would be, well, the average age for Americans getting married is for men it's 26, for women it's 24 currently, something like that, right? What's another example of an age graded development? Like what happens when you reach a certain age that a lot of people or most people experience?
Graduating high school.
Graduating high school. Good example. Let's see. Rebecca Ford. What's another one?
Like getting your driver's permit.
There you go. You hit the 16 and bam, get your permit. Very good. Okay. Well, you guys are good at that one. Okay. Then there are history graded. Boy, isn't this something? So the things that influence our development, think about it. Tippins was just talking. Patrick was just talking earlier about he having to help instruct his children, right? And when they do get the opportunity to go to school, if and when they do, because of the current conditions, we're wearing masks, right? I have two kids right now that are upstairs home, the eighth and ninth grader, and then I have the fourth and second grader at school, and they have to wear masks all day. And then my other two upstairs, are not wearing masks because they're home, but they're doing remote learning like you guys are. We're going through an epidemic, right? We're going through something that is going to influence us. Do you guys start to think about, are you starting to think about how great it's going to be when we don't have to wear these freaking masks and we can touch people again and we can hug them? It's going to be so great. It has an influence on our children's social development. It has an influence on your social development right now. Nuts.
Can I just point out, I don't
Now,
know if it's for like everyone, like I have a little sister who's 12, and since this is her first year of 7th grade, and like she's in the mindset where like she's like, I don't want to go to class, I don't want to do this, and I'm like, kid, I literally didn't have a choice. We had to go to school. Like we like in their mindsets, they're just like not, I don't know how to explain it. She just isn't ready, and she's been in 7th grade for like a year now, so.
so she's not ready to go back, you're saying, or what do you?
Yeah, like she's not like they're not used to the routine that we were used to, like waking up every day. They're
Yeah,
used to just like,
yeah,
every day they're like, do I go online or am I going
yeah,
in person? So
yeah.
it's just
Uh,
crazy how.
Yes, and then you have all these issues with high schools
Mhm.
of even test taking procedures, even the tests, AP classes being tested for things that they're not even being taught. You have
Mhm.
regents exams that are being canceled. These are things that have impacts. Some kids, and this is what's happening. So, Patrick, to your credit, because I respect you, he's doing his best to make sure his kids aren't left behind. They don't fall behind. But not every parent has either the mental ability or desire that Patrick does. So the kids who have parents who have no formal education, who have no interest in education, those kids fall behind big time. Big time. Think of what's going to happen as a result. Anyway, it applies basically is what we're learning about. Then we have non-normative measures. And what does that mean? When we see the word normative or norm, it means think of it as short or long. Norm would be short for normal. What's normal? What's average, right? So, so different people will have different responses or impacts based on experiences. Someone might go to a party. You were in high school and you went to your first party, a bonfire, and maybe that there were people that had alcohol or something. Some of us would see that and go, "Oh, I'm out of here. That is bad." Others of us may have seen that and gone, "All right, where do I get a cup? Let's do this. I'll partake." Right? So we have different responses to the same experiences, but it impacts us differently. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through the different periods of development throughout the semester, and we're going to address, for example, let's just say we're going to be in middle childhood at some point. We're going to be talking about the age range of middle childhood, 6 to 11 years. What happens cognitively, developmentally during middle childhood based on the three primary domains: the physical, the cognitive, and the social emotional. So let's define what these age ranges are. Prenatal, okay, before birth, essentially from conception to birth. Infancy and toddlerhood, from birth to 2 years. Early childhood, 2 to 6. Middle childhood, 6 to 11. Adolescence, 11 to 18. Early adulthood, 18 to 40. Middle adulthood, 40 to 65. And late adulthood, 65 to death. So here are the main domains, the three primary domains. So again, we're going to want to understand, we're going to want to learn, or maybe you don't want to learn, but you're going to learn, you're going to be exposed to at least the different age, the different periods of life, and what happens physically, cognitively, and social, emotionally. So physical, we're talking about body size, changes in body size, proportions. So not just general size, but what is growing and what is not growing as fast, right? So when you look at an infant, if you take a newborn and you compare the body to a fully formed adult, what's different? Proportionally, what are some differences?
Height, smaller.
So we'd say body size. That's general body size. But could you take an infant and just essentially make it bigger and it would look like an adult? No, what's different about it?
It's like
The
features.
proportion of their head.
Yes, the features, the proportion of the head, exactly. Right? The size of the eyes relative to the size of the head, just the head size compared to the rest of the body, the torso compared to the arms and the legs, the fingers and the toes and the nose, genitalia. All these things proportionally are different than when we are adults. So changes in our appearance, the functioning of our body system. So um, so before puberty, our sex glands, our gonads, aren't really doing much. They're doing some things for sure, but they're not really kicking it into overdrive until we hit puberty. And you can see that our appearance will change as a result. But what we're talking about is the body system itself, the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. So changes in our perceptual and motor capacities. What can we do? Right? What are we physically capable of doing? How far can we throw a ball? How well can we hold something? As an infant, not so well. And lastly, we're looking at changes in our physical health. Cognitive, whenever we see the word cognitive or cognition, we should be thinking about thinking or thoughts. Emotional and social. So when it comes to the intellectual abilities, like problem solving, communicating, language development, that kind of. So emotional and social development. Changes in emotional communication, self-understanding, knowledge of others, interpersonal skills. What's the difference between interpersonal and intrapersonal? Inter means between, like interdepartmental means for here's one, here's another. It's between two distinct individuals. Intra means within. So if you have intrapersonal development, you're talking about development within yourself. Intra, intra. So we're talking about relationships, moral reasoning, and social behaviors. All right. I'm going to stop here because I wanted to end early and we're not really ending that early. So I'm going to stop recording. Before I do, we're going to finish chapter 1 on Friday. Now I'm going to stop recording.